There you go. Oh,
Oh no, brother.
looking fresh.
Right. Just in the office, just grinding as usual.
Nice. I see you on Facebook every day. You're doing the lives regularly. You just putting out that information out there.
Yeah. The team, we're starting something new because we're preparing for next year's tour.
Mhm.
So instead of waiting until January to go live every day, we decided to do it on my birthday because that's kind of like
Mhm.
how I celebrate my New Year.
Yeah.
So started exactly on my birthday every day, no matter what. I send me the content I need to talk about, and the video doesn't have to last that long, as
Mhm.
long as I'm those points and just get that information.
Awesome, man. So uh, I wanted to interview you because I just met you through Breathe University. I think I came across your profile either through like a friend request or something, and
Okay.
I'm always amazed by everybody that's in Breathe University because everybody has different stories and different backgrounds, but we all seem to be wanting to reach like a better level in our lives, in our finances, like everything. Everybody just wants to win. And
Yeah.
I'm just curious to know, like, who are you in your own words? Like, who do you say that you are?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I'm just a serial entrepreneur who loves to really see people succeed. I think that it goes back to when you start reading biblical passages, and when it starts to speak to you as that nobody should be in poverty, nobody should be poor. It starts to make me understand that we choose to we choose to live a certain life, become a certain way. We
Mm,
accept the fact that, okay, this is just how my life, my cards were dealt. And I just think that, if you were born into poverty, that's one thing. But
mm,
then when you get to a certain age, when you get to where you can make your own decision, you have
right.
that decision to change that particular, the path.
Mm,
And I think that I just want to be able to reach back out and to those who feel like hopeless is, it's not possible, or I don't have that opportunity. So my legacy that I want to leave behind is that I change the dynamics of the way
mm,
people look at entrepreneurship, or even, somebody who wants to live that 9 to 5 life. It's okay, but master it, be the best at it. Don't just accept, $40,000 a year or 60,000. Don't don't accept living paycheck to paycheck. There's a better outcome. So it's just really trying to reach those people and allow them to dive deep within themselves and just
mm.
push them to the max. So if I had to sum myself up in one word, I would say I am a kingdom legacy builder. I want to help
Mm.
people build legacies.
Got you. And I guess a good follow up to that, because when we were originally going to meet, the times didn't work out, but
Right.
I caught one of your live videos, and like as I was watching it, I was like, oh, he's giving 13 points. I just started writing them down, and I was like, okay, I got
Yeah.
1 through 7. Like the video dropped for a second, but you got it figured out, and you just picked up right where you left off. So
Yeah.
my question to you is, um, I guess from a biblical perspective and like from a life perspective, because that seems to be what you draw from. What is faith to you?
Oh man. And I wish my wife was here to hear this one. She loves me when I talk about my faith. My faith level is that I've gotten to a point where a lot of and I'm still human, right? So I always want to make sure I say that, but I've gotten to a point where my worries about the humanity stuff, meaning that like bills, situations, things of that nature. I'm at a place now when if it's out of my control,
Mhm.
I don't stress about it. I say, hey God, listen, I can't deal with this. For the matter of fact, I can't deal with anything that you throw my way. I'm giving it all to you. But I'm walking by, I literally believe in that scripture, walk by faith, not by sight. I watch the book of Eli every year
Mhm.
purposely because it just reminds me of how he went through that journey. And through that journey, he went through, and every time I watch it, I get a different revelation from it. I get the revelation of him going through the battles, having to fight those individuals. The whole time he was blind, and getting to the end to be able to say, it was never about the book.
Mm.
The download that God said, whether you carry that book or not, I'm going to download what you need to get you through that journey. So for
Right.
me, man, everything that I do, it's like the downloads that God gives me in my mind. I'm saying, in my mind, being human, I say, God, this can't work. I started to look at the measurements and be like, well, marketing hasn't been done here yet, or we haven't done this, and we haven't tested the market for this. But God reminds me every time that I go to that zone. He says, who am I?
Mm.
You think I brought you this far for you to for this to just crumble?
Right.
So for me, man, and the crazy part is, it's the smallest things that He has done for me
Mm.
that jump my, like, God didn't have to do something miraculous for me to jump on the bandwagon of the faith
Right.
bandwagon, so to speak, right? The
Right.
little
Right.
things that He's done, and I think that for me, because I'm identifying and paying attention to the smaller things that He's done. When
Mm.
people say to me, "Why are you so humble when there's a bunch of money coming into the place, or God has just done something for me amazing?" People are like, "Why are you so humble?" Because you
Right.
just don't understand that the faith that I've witnessed from a smaller perspective, when
Mm.
He does something miraculous, it's like I already knew He was going to do it, because I'm walking by faith and not by sight. I'm
Mm.
you know I'm extremely happy, but I was more happy when He did the smaller thing for me
Right.
versus the bigger thing, because it was like, if I can trust you with this, then giving you the world is nothing. So man, I'm on cloud nine with my faith, man. For me, everything is just faith driven. Everything that I do is just faith. I be like, God, look, I don't know how this is gonna work, but guess what? It's all to you, and let's roll. Let's go to work.
Right.
So
Right.
that's where I'm at with my man. I lean on my faith.
Mm.
That's my life. My
Gotcha.
life is my faith.
So let me ask you this: how did it? How long did it take you to get to this point? And like, what really happened in your life to be able to um, really embrace faith? Because a lot of times, for me personally, when I hear people talk about faith, like, I grew up in church, like my dad's a pastor, so like every single day, that was what
Right,
you were raised on, that's what you were fed on, that's like your devotion and everything. But I kind of had this disconnect where I heard about it, but I didn't
right,
really have a chance to practice it. I was just kind of going through the motions, like, get up, do
yeah,
this, do that. But then when a problem like would present itself, it's almost like all that stuff that I learned really didn't apply. And it's like
yeah.
I didn't take this and the other and put it together and say, like, oh, okay, like this situation, that's like a, it's a challenging situation. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to throw my hands up and just be like, oh, God, take the wheel. I'm just going to
Right,
not do anything.
right,
It's like a test is
right.
coming up. Oh, I forgot to study. Oh, God, take the wheel. I'm walking by faith. And it's like, that's not the same thing. Like, that's
No,
not, that's
no,
not the
no,
same thing at all.
no, no, not at all. Man, I would have to say it's been a lot of journeys that God has sent me on to kind of increase that faith level.
Mhm.
Because you don't just wake up one day and just be like, you know what, I'm just gonna, just believe in this faith thing, right?
Right.
Um, Throughout my journey, God has shown me His presence, and through that has increased my faith level to the point where I'm at now. So it's stepping stones, man. I think that when you start to submit to His will in
Mhm.
certain things, and I'm gonna say that when I started to really, like, when I evolved into my faith level is when I married my wife 2 years ago.
Mhm.
You
Right.
know, that's where God literally just opened up the reservoir and was like, okay, there's unlimited access now at this point. So for me, man, and I think that was like a missing piece. And it's so funny how God has a sense of humor. Like,
Mhm.
He allows us to make the choices and the decisions in our life, but He's still right there to guide us, right? So then He walks you through the trials and the tribulations. He brings you out of the turmoil, and He always asks that very simple question: are you ready yet?
Right.
And it's like, and you be like, well, no, God, let me. He said, okay, well, go ahead. And you go right back. You go, and then when you come out, he be like, so are you ready yet? I don't have to worry about that question being asked no more,
Mhm.
because I think I've completed my journey to the new.
Mhm.
That you always walk into a new season, a new month, a new lifestyle, whatever the case may be. So God never has to ask me again, am I ready? Like
Right.
I made that decision when I married my wife, and that's what took me and formed me. And it was like, okay, here's unlimited faith. Now I need to take you and put you in this platform so you can start focusing on, discernment. You can start focusing on persevering. You can start focusing on, success. So he just opened up that door for other things because now I've mastered faith.
Right.
And again, I'm not perfect. I'm still human, so I still have certain doubts about certain things or certain situations. But he always reminds me, and he realigns me. Versus me having to walk through the wilderness for 40
Right.
days, he realigns me quickly. It's like instantly. He shifts my mind, whether he speaks through my wife, through my children, through individuals like yourself, through E or anybody. It just realigns me quickly and say, hey, remember, I got you. I brought you this far.
Right.
You got it. So it's definitely was a stepping stone. It wasn't like you said. You can't just be like, oh, well, I'm just gonna let God. I'm just gonna give it to you. No, you have to apply. Like you gotta put some work in. You know what I mean? Because you gotta show God that you really want Him to operate into what He needs to do. He needs you to at least do 10%. Give something. You can't just come to the table with nothing. Oh, yeah, definitely. So for me, it definitely was a journey. So I honestly, I'm 35. So you're talking about by the time I was 33, to me, up into that time. And choices, right? The choices we make in life. I know people. We got a young lady in church, a little girl. She's like 8 years old, 9 years old. She asked for prayer yesterday or day before yesterday, and asked the pastor to pray over her so she doesn't lose a connection with God, either 8 or 9. You know what I'm saying? Like in my mind, I'm like, wow, like I wish, right?
Yeah.
But I'm happy that I've arrived where I'm at now.
Right.
It took me 33 years to get to this point, to be like my faith level was just like Superman, right? So yeah, man, 33 years, man. And when I married my wife, that's when I got that access of being able to like exert the principles of faith to individuals like yourself, or even to that young girl, and say, hey, listen, keep trusting God, but you gotta have. And I think that's what we don't do. We don't spend enough time with Him. And I think that I learned that part of it when I was probably 27, 28, somewhere around there. And a gentleman had came to me and he taught me about the 4 watches and about praying on those 4 watches. So ever since he taught me that, that's actually where I started to see my faith level started to increase more and more, because every time I would go and seek God, He would do something, because it was like I was coming to seek Him, right? And the crazy part is, when you're new at it, God will do something for you quick just to get you in the zone. But then when you become like a veteran, He doesn't respond as quick as He did when it was before, right? And I understand, because it's all about maturity. It's like, okay, look, I showed you that I was real. I don't need to show you that I'm real no more. Now I just need you to trust. Now I need you to have that faith. You know I got you. I need you to just endure just a little bit longer, because the reward in the end is a bigger outcome than what you thought you saw. So, that's where I'm at with it, man. So I think that if we spend more time with God, that's how we kind of get to that place. And I think even with your situation, you got to think, you're in a familiar zone, right? You're in a familiar atmosphere, because you grew up in the church like that, And I know the schedule. Sunday, and you go back, Bible study. Then you got choir rehearsal. You work in that church almost 5-6 days a week. So it becomes so familiar to you. It's almost like honestly, it's almost like energy drinks, right? If you continuously drink energy drinks, at some point your body's going to become immune to them. And
Mm.
all of a sudden, the effect that it's supposed to give you, it doesn't give it to you anymore.
Right.
So it's the same thing with those and see me, I never grew up in church.
Mm.
I always believed in God because my father instilled it into me that always believe in God, always submit to God. But brother, it wasn't ordained in my household to go to church every Sunday. When
Mm.
we wanted to go to church, my father was like, hey, whatever you want to do it. You know what I mean? So I wasn't raised in that atmosphere. So it's like, it's for me, I'm drawn to it, right?
Mm.
I'm in that zone. But
Right.
I think that you always had a one up on
Mm.
everybody. It's just about not having the opportunity or the understanding of really how to apply it. And even
Right.
with your father being a pastor, people don't understand that. And when you deal with like kids who have pastors and as fathers and stuff like that, it's a different tonality from somebody else because it's not like your father could tell you something and I can tell you the same thing and you
Mm.
may adhere to what I say because it's
Right.
coming from a different voice.
Right.
So
Right.
he may say it in an aggressive way, and I may say it in a motivational way. So it's like we're speaking the same message, but
Yep.
you understand the way I'm delivering it to you versus because it's too common,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that's why I love the fact that my wife has a mentor. A lot of people
Mm.
say, well, you could be your wife's mentor. No, it's too familiar. You know, it's
Mm.
too familiar for her. I've told my wife many of things, and she has her mentor has told her the same exact thing, and she jumps on it. And
Right.
it's because I'm just too aggressive. You
Mm.
know what I mean? But the mentor is he's more motivational. So I
Right.
get it and I understand that. So that's kind of where I'm at with that platform.
So can you, I know you've mentioned your wife, can you tell me like how you came to meet her and also how you came to the point of maturity to where you're not necessarily offended to where it's like, oh, like my wife has a mentor that she can go to and get some of the same information that I can give her. Like, how did you get to that like mind state and be able to walk that out in your life?
Absolutely. So basically, I had asked God, of course, I was like, God had gave me that last talk and say, are you ready? I said, God, I am ready. I'm ready for, unlimited wealth, financial success. I want it all. I want to be where I
Mm.
need to be. I don't want to be struggling in anything whatsoever. And I said, okay, well, in order for that to happen, you have to give up something that you like to do. That was, be playing the dozens, right? Being in the field
Mm.
as a male, you know what I'm saying? Just doing the things that's just not godly in a sense. Um, so I had to narrow myself down and say, okay, well, God, send me who it needs to be. And the crazy part, when I asked him that, well, he didn't even send it to me until like a year later,
Mm.
right? So I'm sitting here searching and thinking that, immediately it's going to happen. And a year later, I meet my wife in 2017. And he said to me, he was like, this is her.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I met her. We met on the phone February the 16th. I met her for the first time March the 2nd, and we got married on Mother's Day.
Mm.
So literally like months after meeting, because God had told me like this is her. So in doing that, as soon as that took place, then here comes God again, showing up and showing out immediately because I took that leap of faith and I
Right.
followed his instruction. He was like, "Look, here's your bonus, like here's your honeymoon reward, right?" So at that point, and then of course, still having that mentality or having that dominion as a male, that dominant male perspective, you know,
Mm.
I of course, as any male, you kind of have that jealousy of like there's another man, mentoring my woman. But
Mm.
then because me and my wife have conversations,
Right.
we communicate. That's very important because we have a communication platform that
Right.
we've created within the 2 years that we've been married. We understand, one, we're
Mm.
entrepreneurs,
Right.
not a shadow of a doubt, and two, we've built such of a loyalty with one another as not having a concern or worry about what each other is doing if they're in a situation where they have to be alone with their mentor, whatever the case may be. But it puts us in a place of knowing what to do and what not to do, right? It's not like she's going to meet with her mentor at a hotel, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? There's always boundaries that we set as a husband and a wife, but understanding that in order for my wife to elevate and get to the level that she needs to get to, she's gonna need another voice. And I had to come to that conclusion because in my mind, I'm saying, well, I mentor a lot of females. You know what I mean? And I get and I understand why the opposite sex is somewhat better than same sexes because again, it goes back to that being familiar with that spirit. And it's not saying because I have a lot of males that I mentor as well. I got more women than I do. And I get it and I understand it. I think because I'm a mentor and I understand the principles of mentorship, that's what helps me really cultivate and kind of encourage my wife. Baby, I'm glad that you got a mentor. I'm glad you have a male mentor because I get the opposite sex being mentored, be able to get her really established where she's at. So you got to remove the emotions from situations like that, and that's what we both do, right? We move those, and again, it goes back to being still human, right?
Yeah.
We still have our moments, we still have our times, and that's because we're seeking attention. That's really what it's all about. When you be like, look, you with your mentor 5 days a week, or it goes into that mode, and it's all about again the emotional part and attention, right? So I think that we have a great relationship in communication, which allows us to have a better understanding in situations.
Got you. And I don't know if I already asked this, but what if you can point to maybe one thing, what allowed you to have the conversation with your wife to say, hey, like, okay, we just met, and I don't know if you guys within the time that you met, you already knew that you were going to marry her, like by Mother's Day. Is that 3 months or 4 months?
Yeah, like 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah. So within 3 months of meeting this woman, like, I'm sure she's amazes you and you're just like, wow, God, like you did a great thing. But like, not only like meeting somebody, getting to the wedding, like that's like great, you thinking fireworks, but it's like after the fact, having the wherewithal to say, let's put systems in place to make sure that not only I'm winning, but you're winning as well. And then let's take it to another level, like we're working together to build something that we both can benefit from. And it's not just you over there doing your thing. It's like, hey, if you want to go do your thing, you can do that. If you want to go do your thing, like you can do that as well. But why not come together since we're already married and we can complement each other to doing this communication business, as you mentioned, and actually like build something up on top of what we've already, like on top of what we're building. Like you're literally like from the time that you ask for the marriage to ask for the wife, like you've built up the marriage and you weren't just focused on like the marriage date. Like how did that like mindset come about? Like how did you develop that from like not being obligated to going to the church to like, okay, I want to seek out this information. I'm not going to listen to all the noise that's going on in the world or maybe the people in my circle.
Right. So for me, one of the reasons or the directions was the love that my wife already had for God. And that's how, honestly, that's how it really allowed me to be like, okay, she's the one. Because when God told me she was the one, it was because she has spent a great deal of her life, not all of her life. She also grew up in the church, right? So, she was a prophet in nature. So, she sees things. So for her, that was her revelation. When she saw me, she already knew God had showed her my heart. And it was like for her, it was like still, done deal. And then God did the same for me. For that piece, that's how that made it that much more easier, is because I love God to life. And she had such a close relationship with him, and once we married, it was like she opened up a whole nother door for me to see the side of what God had planned for me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And she still speaks life and speaks visions into my life now. But then, and when it comes to that communication piece of it, and developing how we work together so well, that's because I asked God to teach me how to love her the way you love her.
Mm.
So when I asked God that specific piece, he started to download to me everything I needed to make sure that we stay, tight,
Right.
so, that's why you will see us on Facebook. My birthday was just past. My wife, she had my birthday planned out for the whole week. But
Mm.
she got to that point because when we first got together, our first year being together, that's what I did for her birthday, right? I took the first 30 days of December was all hers. I got her a card every day of December. So in her mind, she was like, this is something new.
Yeah.
But it allowed her to see another side of herself, to say, well, dang, he really put a lot of, a lot into my birthday. So
Right.
it went from her just giving me a gift card and saying, here you go, baby, do what you want to do, to now putting some thought into it, because it just makes her feel that much more better. Like I felt, it
Mm.
has more meaning to it in regards to how I cherish you and how I really, truly love you. So we love to compliment each other.
Right.
And I think that's what our fire lit, and our relationship going strong, is because we always try to find different methods. Like, she's done so much for my business, as far as for, staying up late at night, finding different systems that I can look into, giving me, direction, and vice versa, right? And
Right.
when
Right.
she's needs some motivation for her team, she'll come to me, or she needs to speak to something in church. So, like, baby, I'm preaching in church. What should I talk about? And I'll give her a topic, and I'll kind of like give her a direction, and then she just goes with it, right? But we have a great way of complimenting each other in certain situations. And then again, it goes back to, we're not perfect, right? We also have those times where we have disagreements, but it's normal, and that's what
Right.
people don't understand. Like, it's normal to have a disagreement. It's when you don't have a disagreement when it becomes a problem,
Right.
when it becomes an issue.
Right.
Because if we have no disagreements, then we're not growing, and
Right.
that's an
Right.
issue. You know what I mean? So I think that's another thing that keeps our relationship lit, is because we do have those disagreements about certain situations, and it doesn't mean, that because we have a disagreement, that we can't just love on one another after the fact. It's a
Right.
disagreement, and that's just, we just agree to disagree, and that's it. That's just
Yeah.
that's the way life is. So, and I think that the more we continue to speak that into each other, by not just hovering over attitudes, or hovering over a miscommunication, or hovering over just not agreeing on certain things. When we don't in that place, we
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
deal with it, and then we move on. And you continue to just keep growing, because at some point God reveals it's always three sides to every sword. It's your
Yeah.
side, it's my
Yeah.
side, and it's the truth. And the
Yeah.
truth is, right. So God always, during the course, we agree to disagree during our
Right.
course, God will do something to let us know which one was right or wrong. But we've come to a conclusion literally a couple of days ago to say, it's no longer who's right or wrong. It's about making sure that we're properly informed.
Right.
We literally about 3 or 4 days ago, we came to the conclusion that we're no longer going for the right and wrong. See, there's that growth.
Right.
We're moving
Right.
to another realm, right? So we're not even pointing the finger who's right, wrong. When it happens, we're like, okay, baby, guess what? This is just the right way to do things, and that's it. And we don't even say you were right or I was right. We don't even do that anymore. We're like, baby, look, guess what? This is just the way it is. This is how it has to be, because God showed us that this is it.
Yeah.
So hey, now we got the right answer, and then we just keep it moving, right? So because what happens is when you start pointing the finger who's right and wrong, you resurface what you guys had already had a disagreement about, and now it comes into you build something even bigger that doesn't even need to be. It's
Right.
like, I don't need to sit here and be cocky because I was right.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad that we both have an understanding. I'm glad that God gave me the knowledge. Now you have it. Now let's move on to the next battle.
Right.
So, you know, but again, just like I said, it just took place like 3 or 4 days ago.
Mhm.
So that elevation, and God just it's a continuous thing. And I think that's where people go wrong at. They think that you get to a certain level and it stops.
Right.
And it's,
Right.
if you think about biblical principles, God never stopped. Like it never stopped. The Bible stopped, but the journey lives through us. Like, we're the next chapter
Yeah.
of biblical principles that people are going to read. Who knows what happens when we pass away, right? There may
Right.
be another Bible that may be written. I don't know what it'll be called, right? But they'll talk about like you and I in the Bible having conversations like this, right?
Right.
They'll
Right.
talk about that passage where we're talking about and we're indulging in great conversation about God or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
So yeah, man, that's definitely where I'm at.
That's awesome, man. You got me pumped up already, just fired up. I'm like, oh man. I was talking to Shelly Shelton the other day, and she was talking about a book that she's writing is going to come out November 1st, and she's saying that um, she the book is basically her speaking a child into existence, like a child that she's been wanting, and she's been speaking that into existence, and she basically like wrote out like this is what the child is called. This is his name is Chandler. It's like the adventures of Chandler and the prayer shawl, and it's like as soon as she said that, I was like, wow, I think I've been thinking too small. I'm thinking like, okay, get my life together with God, like go out, do my morning devotion. It's like you got me thinking I need to start praying children into existence to be like, okay, like God, like give me this, like let me speak it, let me ask for it, and then the desires of my heart will be fulfilled. And
Yeah.
like I always hear people say, especially with the men's prayer line. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but it's like a good group of guys that E.T., Eric Thomas, and a couple of his college classmates back in the day, they started it when they went to Oakwood. And
Okay.
it kind of grew from there where they just, different people kept inviting guys to the group. And like now it's a thing that just is opened up like Monday through Friday, people will jump on. I think Saturday we do like a different variation of it, and Sunday it's like something else is going on. But it's like this constant edification of men, and like by all means, it's the majority of people on there are black men that are speaking not only about faith but about their spirituality, their emotional health, their physical health. People that have been in like all stages of life, people that may just be starting, people that have been like elevated. People will tell you like, okay, I've been up and then I've been down also. It's like, here's where God humbled me. Here's where I was broken. And kind of seeing that where people are really genuine and they have like a purpose for why they do what they do when it comes to faith specifically. And it's not just something that's just a routine. I think it really drives home the point as to like why that's such a motivating factor for people, and why when you speak with that power, you speak with that reassurance that like my faith is in something that's greater than me. And some people may call God the universe or energy or something else. It's like regardless what you want to call it, it's like understanding that you can work like everything depends on you, but like you pray like everything depends on God, and actually like taking that into action. It's a
Yeah.
powerful thing. And just being fortunate to be like in the Breathe University group and just reaching out to someone like yourself, like never met you in person before, but like just seeing the connection where it's like, hey, would you like to be on a podcast? I just started it this month. Like
Yeah.
I'm figuring it out as I'm going along. And it's like, yeah, like we'll do it. Okay, we missed the first deadline. Like let's reschedule. And like,
Yeah.
bam, it just all things work together for the good of those that love the Lord. And like
Absolutely.
being able to say that now so comfortably and not feeling so embarrassed to where like, oh my God, who's watching this? Who's gonna listen? What are they gonna think about me? It's like none of that matters. Like
Yeah.
none of that
Nope.
matters. Like
None of it matters. And
let them,
just
yeah,
give you some encouragement on that. brother, listen, and I think he has even said it that it took him 20 years to get what he got. Okay? He used to put out first video, first motivation. Nobody was on, right?
Mm.
And that went on for like months. I don't know, even years before he decided to really start to develop some type of group, right? And then you figure after a year, you only get 10 people.
Mm.
You only get 20 people. Look, brother, look, it took me 5 years to get 5,000 friends. Now I know people that's still good because it's like that's almost like 1,000 friends a year. But at the same time, it's like I've seen people get a Facebook page in a matter of like months, man. They get the 5,000 friends, but and understanding that everybody's journey is different, right?
Right.
So your podcast, we had a school of business we teach at our church for the month of October every Monday nights, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had a gentleman who said, well, I'm a songwriter, but I don't want to put my music out because there are so many other songwriters out there. And I'm saying, in what? Like there's a Jiffy Lube on the corner,
Yeah.
but then there's another Jiffy Lube down. I mean, like it doesn't matter, but you got to put yourself out there because who's to say that your songwriting is exactly what the people in the industry have been looking for? They've been so tired of the people that they're accustomed to. They're like, I just want somebody new, right? So you got to think about the same thing with your podcast, getting individuals like myself and all of the other individuals that you're going to acquire along the way. People are going to look into your podcast like, man, we got some good people on there that's talking about some real stuff, that's really giving us some nuggets, that's really like, that really helped me out in my situation. And that's what I love about God. See, we like to downplay ourselves, but biblically, God has already given us the keys. He's given us the keys to be great at what we know that we can be great at, and know that we are great at. That's why you hear the saying, you can do anything you put your mind to. That is so true, right? You can do anything, and then all of a sudden, by mistake, and I say this gracefully, by mistake, somebody can say, you know what, brother, look, I wanna fund your whole podcast. I want to give you everything that you need. Like you just never know, one, who's listening, two, who you're interviewing. You just don't know, right?
Right.
So man, I'm excited that I was able to say, hey, look, I was on one of the first podcasts that started long ago. I can look back, I can reflect back because I speak nothing but grace over your life as far as for success with your podcast, or to take it to a level that you didn't even expect. I hope God literally blows your mind and be like, God, I just don't be afraid, embrace it, and just roll with it, right? Expect failure, expect failure, and expect it to learn. You want to expect failure to learn what not to do moving forward as you continue to grow. But expect it, don't run from it, and don't run from the blow up. Don't run from the explosion that God is going to get ready to do for you. Embrace it and just roll with it.
Right.
And just roll with it.
Thank you. I received that. I'm almost nervous to like keep going. I'm like, should we just cut it? Just end it right there. But I think I have one or two more questions. So, first of all, what is the marketing business that you and your wife started? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I have a marketing firm that's been in business for 17 years, and my wife is amazing business development and social media like guru, so to speak. So she's kind of mastered that arena. And so when you take the skill set that she has and kind of incorporate it with what I already have rolling, we kind of just figure out, what lane is the masterpiece, right? So my wife has her lane, and then I have my lane, and then we just kind of incorporate the two, kind of like go to work. Like at the School of Business last night, she taught about like social media and like the things to do on social media because that's kind of her space, that's kind of her realm. And mine, the one I talked about Monday before was business credit, right? How to actually structure business properly to start getting some of the finances that you can get as a business without having to worry about using one, your personal credit, and then two, trying to get a business loan. Like there's so many resources that you can get at the beginning without having to worry about, oh, I need capital right now. There are so many resources that actually gives you capital as a company. And these are just things that we don't know as entrepreneurs. I literally was speaking to a young lady who goes to our church. She was in business for 5 years, and the structure of her business just wasn't set up properly to receive those funds. In literally 48 hours, she got her stuff situated, and then now she's expecting to start getting some type of credit card in a matter of 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now.
Nice.
So, just again, mastering, and I think that's key. And I think CJ says that throughout their events that they do with the 1%. You have to be if you're not a master at your gift, then you're really not indulging or operating in your gift fully, right? So you got to find what your gift is, and whatever that gift is, master that gift. And then once you become a master, that's when you're starting to develop multiple streams of income within that gift that you that you could potentially create. So yeah, that's pretty much how me and my wife kind of incorporated one another. And she has a brand. She has an amazing brand that she's pushing and that she's doing. And whatever I help her push that brand, my support level for her is at 100%. So I don't have to do it. We pretty much, I would say, for the most part, we try to incorporate our schedules to where we work them off one another. We have very little times where we have to separate from one another. And I think that we found that being in the same room with one another keeps that motivation and encouragement, takes away that anxiety, takes away that fear, because we know that once we're done with that platform, we're going to hear the words, baby, you did an amazing job. Or, baby, you did a great job. So, we're feeding each other. And I think that's one of the reasons why we kind of focus on keep staying together when we're doing things. So we can get that. Like, I don't care what nobody else says, as long as I hear that from my wife that I did a great job. Yeah. Everybody else don't even matter. So yeah, that's the business that we kind of merged a little bit together. And then of course, my wife has other things that she does. She's moving into her author realm, So I think that because my master is me being an entrepreneur. I know how to master and building a business. So my wife pulls on that, right? Pulls on that. And my wife has mastered one of the things as far as for social media. So whenever she gives little tips, like last night, I had to tell her, I said, baby, I took 1 or 2 notes. She's like, you did? Because her expectation is like, well, you kind of like, you should know. You're like, or you already know, or I thought you already know. And it's like, yeah, but hey, I learned from her literally every time we're, amongst one another, because she can do a presentation 1,000 times, and I'll always find something that I hear different, and I'll kind of take that in, and then I'll kind of dish it out. So.
Wow. That's a beautiful thing. That's really a beautiful thing. And just being having this conversation with you and being around people that are just like-minded like this, but are also taking action to continue to create these situations and these environments. It's very comforting, and it's very rewarding, because it motivates me to do the same. And anytime somebody that may not have that same exposure talks about, oh, the world is going to crap, this is falling apart, that's falling apart, I'm like, you're paying attention to the wrong things. Come over here and let me show you my world. And this is essentially what that is come see this and see people that live today in your neighborhood, wherever you think you're located, whatever job you think you're doing. Yes, there's some entrepreneurs, there's some people working in construction, there's some people that may be the postman, the mailman, the bus driver, something. Everybody has a different view of life, but the people that make the most of it and take that action are really game changers, I would say, because they're they challenge the status quo, and they don't sit around and wait for life to happen to them to say, oh, like they said on the news, like everybody's dying. Like I can't go to that side of town because they're killing everybody in Chicago. Like don't go to Chicago. Like it's terrible over there. But I'm like, no, that's not true. I just went there last weekend. I got family there. Like they're like, I walked around. I walked down the street. Yes, there are bad parts of the city, but you don't go there. Like if you know that there's somewhere really bad, you don't just walk into there. And the people that live there, they know how to navigate those areas, and they don't just sit around complain like, oh, they're just killing us all. It's like, no, like there are killings, there are deaths, there are bad things that happen, but just allowing that to kind of fester or just to be like the overall tone of everything, it's just like that's not going to help you.
Yeah.
It's just it's not going to do anything for you, like
Yeah.
anything positive.
Absolutely.
But if I may ask this last question, how valuable is it for you to create or alter a habit?
I love that question. This is what I love to teach my mentees or and even individuals who ask that same kind of question. Um, it takes your body, your mind, 7 days to, if you do something consistently for 7 days, your body becomes adaptive to that thing that you're doing for those days. For you to fully take control, it takes literally 21 days for you to stay consistent at doing something to where now your mind, your mental now takes full control of this particular thing. And I'll give you an example. For those people who like to lose weight, right?
Mm.
That is the reason why they stop after a certain period of time, because they'll work out maybe 3 days out of the week and maybe even five. But then the last couple of days, 2 days, they won't work out. And what happens is that because they never completed the 7 days, their body doesn't adapt to the habit, right? But then let's just say you do get those people that do complete the 7 days. Now their body has adapted to the habit, but then now they don't make it to the 21st day for their
Right.
mental to now say, this is something that we have to do, right?
Right.
So for me, I'm at the gym at 6 a.m.
Mm.
And I had to get myself to that point, right? But it took me roughly about 21 days. You're talking about I went to the gym nonstop for 21 days for my whole body. Now, if I do not go to the gym, my body it operates differently. It's like, yo, whoa, what are we doing? Like, hey, I know you want to work, but you got to work out. Like, I need a jog in. I need some weights. So my body is speaking to me because now I've completed that form. So
Yeah.
my advice to you and anybody that's listening, or that will listen to this, I would say if you want to be able to form a habit, if you form to it for 7 days,
Yeah.
start the process, and then if you want to finish the process, do it for 21 days, and then it sets in,
Right.
right? And then from there, it becomes autopilot. It's the same thing when you think about those people who smoke cigarettes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You take that first puff, you don't get addicted from the first puff. They consistently do it.
Yeah.
So within that 7 days, now the body conforms to it. And then by the 21st day, it's like, okay, look, every morning I got to have a cigarette. Same thing with coffee drinkers. So anytime you want to form that habit, all you have to do is do something consistently. So it's the same thing with your business.
Right.
If you wake up every day driving your business, you just get accustomed to it, man. You like, okay, boom, 9 o'clock. And then what happens is that, especially from an entrepreneur standpoint, once you've gotten into the rhythm, now you got to make sure that you're not overbooking yourself. You got to now start to get organized. You got to now start teaching yourself certain things. So it's just so much to learn after you form that habit. It's so much more to learn after that, right? So that's the method to actually forming the habit. 7 days actually acquires you to move you into that position, but 21 days actually, literally, that seed is planted into the ground now, and you start to become accustomed to care of this or doing things that you.
Right. That's a great That's a great tie-in, because to give you I guess a testimony to that, within Breathe University, we have the Chameleon Call, which
Okay.
is led by Carl and a few other people there. And I jumped on it a little bit. I think they started it last year, but I jumped on it this year, and they decided to do a book study, and we're studying The Power of Habit.
Okay.
And it's talking about how you create habits and how different actions and scenarios affect the habits that we have. And
Yeah.
literally, by taking that book, I was just like, okay, let me commit to it after we got maybe like 3 or 4 weeks in. And initially I kind of like dipped my toe in the water. I was like, I don't know if I can commit to this or not. But I knew in my mind that if I was going to start this podcast, because I did the first recording maybe in like August of 2019,
Mhm.
and I wanted to be able to do it regularly. But I did the first one, and then I backed off of it. Like I already missed that consistency. But I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I know that we talked about routines. Like if I get my morning routine right, I'll get it to flow. So I was like, okay, what's going to be my morning routine? They say if you make your bed first thing, like you're already winning. Like if nothing else happens that day, like you come back, like the house set on fire, or hopefully the house isn't set on fire, but like if you had a car wreck, this, that, or the other, you come home and you see that your bed is made, you're like, oh, like of everything else that could have happened, I made my bed. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I started out, it's like, make my bed, get out of the bed, go downstairs and meditate, or even like sit in the chair next to the bed, just meditate. Whether
Yeah.
it's like saying a quick prayer, reading a scripture, with if it's one sentence or one chapter out of one book, it's like just keep it super simple. And then after that, it's like I after that, the third thing that I did was get out of the house to be active. So
Yeah.
there's a park not too far from my house. I was like, okay, I can walk down to the park. But after a while, I was like, that's not so consistent. There's another park with a track around it, and I can just drive there in 5 minutes. So I was like, jump in the car, drive over there, and just walk. All
Yeah.
you're doing is walking. And like before, I was walking with my mom, and we would do 12 laps around the track, which is 4 miles. And you can briskly walk, but like we just walk regularly, nothing too crazy.
Right.
And then I
Right.
remembered that I did this 10K trainer app, or before they have different versions of it. There's a C2 5K, it's couch to 5K. And then the
Mhm.
next level up is like, here's, if you did the 5K, go ahead and level up to the 10K, and then, hey, do the marathon.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I did the 5K one before. Let me pick back up with the 10K one, and I'll just start back at day one. And I started doing that. And all it requires you to do is to run and jog 3 days out of the week. So I was like, okay, I start doing the routine. And then within 7 days or somewhere around there, it started to click. And my body was like, okay, like wake up. I'm not just going to lay in bed, text. It's like, oh, no, I got something to go do. And funny
Yeah.
enough, Rochelle T. Parks, the health motivator, she started on October 1st of this year to doing like workouts with Rochelle in the morning. And I just happened to pop my computer open. I was like, 5 a.m. Like it's not a terrible time, but initially I wasn't
Right.
getting up at 5. But I was like, oh, like Facebook came out with this new thing called the watch party. And it's
Yeah.
like I can click on it, rewatch her video, and then invite other people to watch it. And all
Yeah.
the while you can stream yourself live to see, okay, like if somebody's watching, maybe it'll encourage them. Like I don't necessarily want to be on camera. Like
Right.
let that be for like the flamingos, the people that are like all bubbly and whatnot. But it's like, hey, if you're gonna do something different, you got to put yourself out there. And it's
Yeah.
like just started doing that every day or almost every day. Where it's like I didn't start doing it at 5 a.m. with her. I was like, I'll stick to my routine, go and do my walk / run jog in the morning, and then come back in the afternoon after I've gone through, did job interviews, recorded a podcast. And I was like, oh, the day's almost over. Like it's 5 p.m. Let me
Yeah.
jump on there, hit record, 15, 20 minutes, done. Like I'm struggling at sometimes, but like this is day number 22. I did the workout and I was like, man, she's got us out here doing Spider-Man planks. And I was like, I was like, hey, it's not so bad. Like my core feels better. It feels strong. I can actually hold the plank. Like she's doing 60 push-ups. I was like, hey, I'm up to 30. Like I'm doing it at half the time, and I'm not looking at her and measuring. I'm just like I'm being motivated by her. And something that's helped me to do that is um, this book from Jordan Peterson. He's a clinical psychologist out of Canada, and he wrote this book called 12 Rules for Life. And he says, compare yourself not to somebody else, but to who you were yesterday. So that every single day that you get up, you challenge yourself to do like a little bit more. And you do the very bare minimum so that you don't overwhelm yourself. And every time you do the very bare minimum, it's just like, okay, like I can do one more second than I did yesterday, or I can do just as much as I did yesterday. And then you kind of like self motivate yourself to say, hey, let me do this. And hey, we're October 22nd today. We passed the 21-day mark. I got up, made my bed, meditated, went out for a walk around the neighborhood, and I filmed it to where I was like, hey, maybe I'll just throw this up on Instagram or whatnot, figuring out the social media thing. But now I know, hey, if I've got a question, I can reach out to you and your wife and say, hey, can you guys help me in this area?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, man. Absolutely. I love it. I love it.
Let the people know where they can find you, and we'll just go ahead and wrap up. I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
No, absolutely. You're fine. So you guys can find me on all social media platforms. My name is Unique Casual. So Casuel, and then my last name is Pitts, Pitts. On Instagram, I am called The Real Entrepreneur 8. So it's _real_entrepreneur 8. That's my name on Instagram. And again, you can just find me on all social media. If you Google me, I will be on the first page, all down that first page. So yeah, that's where you guys can find me at. And I definitely appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Chua.
Say it again.
Chua. It's a silent T.
Chua. Okay.
Yeah. Chua. Right. So like what I did on my Instagram, I kept getting teased with my last name. People used to call me Chewbacca. So I put a T in front of the Chewbacca, and I was like, okay, if they see this enough time, they'll be like, oh, that looks like Chewbacca. Maybe they'll figure out how to say my last name.
I got you. I love it, man. But yeah, thank you, man, for the opportunity.
Yes, sir.
And I definitely will have some tips and some resources to be able to send your way to help increase, your podcast, whatever, resources I have access to from a podcast arena. I'll definitely send your way.
Thank you, sir. And I'll send you this video here shortly.
Perfect. That'll work.
Take care.
All right, you too.